In this video, we're going to take a look at some permissions and advanced settings in Google Forms. Let's pretend that you have already finished creating your questions, and we'll take a look first in the Settings tab. So we're going to scroll down to the responses. Usually it will not be expanded like this. So you'll expand the responses section. And the very first thing that I think might be most important is to look at who it is restricted to. Right now it's restricted to only VCU users. And I think in most cases, it's good to turn that off. Sometimes people might receive the survey, they might be a user in your organization, but if they have multiple Google accounts signed in, it can maybe not give them permission. So unless there's a really good reason to restrict it to users in a certain organization, I would just go ahead and turn that off. And then really only the people that will receive the link will be the ones that fill it out. You've got a couple of other things up here. I want to point out collect email addresses. If you turn that on, it's going to automatically either collect their email address or require them to type one in, and that stops making it anonymous. So if you're trying to do an anonymous survey, you want to be sure that that is turned off. If you do have this turned on because you want it to collect their email address, then you don't want to go back and also ask the person to type their email address as a separate question in the survey. You only would need to do this once. You've got some other options here, like allowing them to edit or, limiting it to just one response if those are something that you're thinking about. Down here under presentation, one of the things that you might want to pay attention to is the confirmation message. Right now it's set to this default. After the person fills in the summary or fills in the survey, it's going to say to them, your response has been recorded. I think it's a nice touch to edit that sometimes and say something like, you can just type it here. Thank you for participating in this survey. If you have any questions, contact me, and put your email address. I think that is just a nice feature at the end that you can edit what it says back to them. There are certainly other things that you can edit here, but those are the ones that are most important. So next we'll go up to the send button. If you have set the settings as you want them, you're ready to have someone fill out this survey, you want to click send, and then you have a couple of options. You can send it by email. I typically use the link, which is this second tab here. And just because it looks nicer, I shorten the URL, get this nice short link to my survey, and then copy, and then that is what I would paste in a document or an email and say, please fill out this particular form. There are other ways you can do it, Facebook, embedding, all that kind of thing. But this is typically the one that I think is the easiest and nicest. Another thing that you might want to do is have someone work on this survey with you. If you want to have another person be able to edit the questions, then you want to add them as a collaborator. So sometimes people get confused and think that this is how you are sending the survey for someone to fill it out. Adding a collaborator is what helps you have someone else edit with you. So if I wanted Jamie to be able to work on this survey with me, I would choose her, I type her here, and then it would send them a link, just like, so see how she's the editor, it would send her a link to be able to edit just like you do with a Google Doc or Google Slides or something. So that then if you do choose that, then you will be able to see them editing it with you, and it'll look like this. So this would be, if Jamie was working on it with me, it would show up that she's working on this particular question with that color, and her name would come up right there. And then finally, another thing that I think might be helpful is under the responses tab. And so right now no one has filled out my survey, but this is where it would show up. I can also take a look at that in a spreadsheet format by clicking here. My survey is on, but if at some point I'm done, I don't want to take any more responses, I would turn it off right here. And that means that if someone gets the link, it would just say this survey is no longer open or available to use. But something that I have found to be really helpful in the more section right here is to get email notifications for new responses. That way, every time someone fills out the form, it's going to send me an email to say, you have a new response. And I use that because sometimes I'll have a form open for a long time and I otherwise might miss that someone would fill it out at the last minute or after I was thinking that people would be finished. So if you want to get an email notification, that's where you do it within the responses and then the more section.